Welcome to the Reporters Square Table presented by Lending Tree. It's a look back edition. I'm Sam Farber, the new radio voice of your Hornets. Pleasure and a privilege to be joined by three guys with three very different experiences going back to a 3-overtime thriller. December 29th, 2006. It was the then Charlotte Bobcats versus the Los Angeles Lakers. We're going to relive that day through three different perspectives. First, we'll have Matt Rochinski, who was covering the game that night for BobcatsBasketball.com, going way back in the Wayback Machine. He still runs the digital media department for the current edition, of course, your Charlotte Hornets. My next guest needs no introduction. He is a Bobcats legend, Matt Carroll. He was a guard on that squad, and he had the unenviable task of guarding the late, great Kobe Bryant. And finally, we have Wesley Robinson. He's part of the Hornets social media team, but back in 2006, he was just a young 15-year-old kid who was so excited to be at a basketball game in the NBA and be in attendance to witness that great moment in Charlotte NBA history. So it should be a lot of fun to hear all three perspectives. I'm going to start with you, Matt. You were just getting into your NBA career as an employee, and you see this 3-overtime thriller. What stands out to you about that night?
You know what? To me, the thing that really stands out the most about that night is, and Matt will tell you this as a player, you know, when we first started, the amount of fans that we had in this building that were actually Bobcats fans was limited at best. Let's be honest. That we were transplant city, we had a new team starting, we had a lot of opposing fans coming into our building to watch games because they were getting the chance to watch the teams they hadn't had a chance to see in years take on us. What really stood out to me in that game was this was really the pivotal point for fandom for a lot of Bobcats and now Hornets fans at this point, when they stopped being fans of the other team and started focusing on us a little bit. I'm not saying that it still didn't continue to happen throughout the years, but there was a lot of that turn that went from the Laker chant in the building towards the end of regulation as we got into the overtimes, and just to see the crowd turn against almost the team they were there to cheer for in the Lakers because their Bobcats were putting on such an amazing performance. It gives me chills just still thinking about being there watching it.
Matt Carroll, you were there on the floor. What stands out most to you? Was it the guarding Kobe aspect of it? Was it the thrill of victory after a 3-overtime affair? What is the signature memory for you?
Sam, I think a little bit what Matt Rochinski said. We were a new team in this city. You know, the Bobcats were a team that nobody really knew as of yet. And I think it took a game like that to kind of put this team on the map, even in our own city. And I think seeing the building packed, at capacity, 19,000 plus, the energy was fantastic. It was around the holidays. I got to say, I had some of my college teammates from Notre Dame come down to the game. My grandfather, who was a high school coach in Pennsylvania, he came down, I think, to see me, maybe to see Kobe and the Lakers. I don't really know. But either way, they were there. And it was just great energy. One thing, and for me, being a kid growing up in Philadelphia, watching Kobe Bryant, kind of idolizing him as a young basketball player, having a chance to actually play against him in an NBA game and being on the court in a historic game for our franchise was what sticks out the most to me.
Wes, both Matts kind of touched on it, that this was the infancy of the Charlotte, reorganization here. And so maybe there were fans coming to watch the other team. You're a 15-year-old. Who did you come to watch?
Well, as a kid, I was from New York. And then I grew up in South Carolina, and the Laker game ticket was actually my Christmas gift. I just love basketball, and, growing up in South Carolina, there's only two ways you can go. You can go south to Atlanta, or you can go up to North Carolina. And I just chose that. I wanted to go where Charlotte was, and most of my family lived up there as well. And I was just excited to go to the game. I mean, who doesn't want to see Kobe Bryant? But I also grew up a UNC fan with Raymond Felton and Sean May, who were also on the team as well, to see those guys. So it was great to come in and, see those guys play, and even Raymond Felton have a phenomenal game. But leaving that arena, I grew more closer to that franchise, learning more about Emeka Okafor, seeing him live for the first time, seeing Matt Carroll light it up from three, Primoz Brezic, just so many different players that I grew, and I still have my game program that I kept since I was 15 years old. And I remember I took it back to school and I was like, look, I seen all these guys play, this guy was on fire, this guy's doing well. And then I pretty much followed that franchise right after that game. But I came for one agenda, and then I left being a Charlotte Bobcats fan for life.
Emeka Okafor, I believe, is the last Charlotte player to be Rookie of the Year. Obviously, now there's some hopes that there might be a new Rookie of the Year for the NBA coming out of Charlotte. Matt Carroll, I'll go to you. When you think back to that season, and you mentioned how that moment kind of turned the tide and really created some buzz, pardon the pun, around the franchise, do you feel like that kind of signature moment is something that needs to happen for the current edition, or do you think that buzz is already naturally there with the additions of LaMelo and Gordon Hayward to generate the kind of attention here locally that maybe didn't exist coming in to that game some now 15 years ago?
Thinking back to Emeka Okafor, I mean, it was a big deal. And I think it really helped this franchise to have such a talented rookie. He had such a great season during his rookie year. But I think looking into the future now with a player like LaMelo Ball, I mean, the excitement's already there. I go back to, 2005, around that time when I was playing, there really wasn't a lot of social media. I think now you look at a guy like LaMelo Ball, I mean, people know him all across the world because of social media. And he comes in with a little different reputation, a little different following than guys were coming in back in the early 2000s. So I think, whether he gets Rookie of the Year or not, I think he has a great chance. What I've seen of him already, very impressive. I mean, his feel for the game, his passing ability, his energy, and he loves the game. He's been around it since he was a baby, when you talk to him, that he grew up in. But I'm very excited for his potential, and I think he's going to bring a ton of excitement to this team and to the city of Charlotte. So very excited to see kind of what pans out with him this season.
Wes, going back once again to that game in 2006, how did that moment imprint upon you, maybe a desire to work in the NBA in your professional future?
Oh, absolutely. I think my fandom for basketball it was already small, but it just skyrocketed after that. And I knew exactly what I wanted to do in life, being able to have those Bobcats experiences, even the 2010 playoffs, coming back and experiencing that as well. It was just amazing to just pick a random game like that. And I just remember watching that game and going home and jumping on NBA Live to try to recreate Matt Carroll going 4 for 6, or Emeka Okafor grabbing 25 boards, or dishing out 15 assists like Raymond Felton. I just remember just being so excited to be able to experience a phenomenal game like that. And then the amazing part about this is that the record didn't reflect what that team brought to the table. And they did not back down from a Los Angeles Lakers team who was pretty good at the time. And, coming in with Phil Jackson and a 3-time champion and Kobe Bryant, Gerald Wallace had an amazing game. These guys stepped up and responded every time that the Lakers came in attack. In spite of Kobe just catching fire, these guys were able to come back and respond as well. And, it was just phenomenal. Like Matt said, a lot of people came in there as Laker fans, but I'm pretty sure their respect for Charlotte grew after that game.
Matt Rochinski, I'll pull back the curtain a little bit. People in the media know sometimes when you're getting late in a game and you're trying to get the story out quick, you write the lead first couple minutes. How many times for the 3 overtime affair did you rewrite the lead?
I think that might have been probably the last time in my career I decided to do that anymore, because I'm going to be honest, if you watch that game, and seriously, folks, if you do have time to go back and watch the game on YouTube, Wes sent it to me. I mean, I covered it the other night, watched the game again. I was just like, oh my God, look at these notes from what I was taking just watching this game as it was happening at 2:00 in the morning before we were going to do this thing, just because I wanted to go back and see what it was like. I mean, I had written off us. I'm going to be honest, Matt. In the first quarter, it looked horrible. Things looked like they was going to get real ugly real quick. And then Matt Carroll checks into the game with about 40 seconds left. all right, here comes Matty Ice. He's going to get us going. This is going to happen. End of the first quarter, Matt's wide open for a three-pointer at the top of the arc and clangs it off the rim, unlike most shots that I've seen in Matt Carroll's career. I don't know if it was nerves. I don't know what it was, but when he came in that second quarter, and everybody likes to talk about what Matt did in overtimes and how he D'd up Kobe in the second half. And if we want to talk about that's what you called it, Matt, but that's your call on that. But what I want to say is the one part that really kind of swung that game for me, we lose that game at the end of if we don't come back the way we did to start the second quarter. I mean, this was a team that once we got down by teams, Matt will tell you, it was hard for us to come back. And to get down early that way in the first quarter and have Kobe going off the way he did, and then to watch what Matt Carroll did in a 5-minute stretch. And I don't like to kiss his butt because I've known this guy for so long and I love him to death. But man, that might have been one of the best 5-minute stretches of basketball I've ever seen Matt play. Just to hit a 4-point play to get things going, followed by a 3-point play. Like, it was just everything he was doing. It was those two Philly boys going head to head and the top scorers in Philadelphia team history saying, I'm going to come at you and you're going to come at me. And there was just a respect that was going on there that was amazing to watch. So, yeah, that might have been the first time I started rewriting, and then about 6 rewrites after 3 overtimes. You're right, Sam. Those are the times you're just tearing your hair out. That's why I look like this today.
Carroll, what did you hold Kobe to that night? I'm forgetting.
Well, listen, Sam, the game plan was hold him under 60, okay? And I held him to 58. So, I followed the game plan, executed it. He didn't get 60, and we won the game. So Coach Bernie Bickerstaff knew what he was talking about, obviously. But, I will say this. That's the nicest Matt Rochinski has ever been to me. It must be the holidays because I've never heard so many compliments. But going back to what Wes said, I think as a former player, it's really cool to hear a story about, a teenager and a kid. When Wes was coming to the game, you could really create an interest and a following, and now he's working with the team and everything else. So I think it's really cool to hear those stories. So as a former player, looking back, that means a lot to hear those stories. To Matt Rochinski's point about getting in the game, what was unique about this Bobcats team was, Bernie Bickerstaff gave everybody an opportunity. You're on this team. We didn't have superstars yet. We all soon become an NBA All-Star, but we were on the team. Our practices were amazing. Practice, it was guys were competing. And Coach Bickerstaff always said, listen, if you compete some minutes, you're going to get them. And he stuck by that. So, sitting on the bench for me in the Lakers game, I'm looking around the arena, it's packed. I got family here to come down and watch. It's Kobe Bryant. When I get in the game, I don't know if I'm going to play 5 minutes or maybe I could expand it and play 20. I didn't think I was going to play 40, that's for sure. But sitting there, that when I get in the game, I got to make something happen. Turn it back. So I think when we played the Lakers, as Wes said, we had a lot of success, and we beat them in some exciting games. That triple overtime game we're talking about. We had some overtime wins in LA. We really had success against one of the best teams in the NBA at the time and the best player. And I think a lot has to do with because as a player, you knew this was your moment and you had to take advantage of it and make it happen. And sitting on that bench knowing I'm going to check in the game, it felt like now is my time. This is my opportunity. I got to take advantage of it. And we had a lot of success, I think, because of those reasons.
Well, gentlemen, it's been fun looking back. Enjoy the rest of this holiday season, and looking forward to creating many more memories and inspiring some more future Hornets employees in the not too distant future. That's been the look back edition of the Reporters Square Table presented by Lending Tree. For Matt, and Wes, I'm Sam Farber. It's been a pleasure and a privilege having you with us here, and we'll see you next time.